In the year 1952, in the city of Klingenberg, West Germany, a little girl is born named Anneliese. Anneliese Michel. Anneliese's family were devout Catholics, and Anneliese grew up in a very religious family. Around September of 1968, when Anneliese is only 16 years old, she starts feeling confused and forgetting where she is and who she is. She also couldn't move. After a few hours, the symptoms stop, and Anneliese tells her parents that it felt like something heavy was sitting on my chest and I couldn't move. Her mother and father didn't think much of it, and they thought it was something small and it passed, and nothing was done about it. 11 months passes, and Anneliese starts feeling the same symptoms. It is this time that the mother says, let's go see the family doctor, Dr. Vogt. Dr. Vogt suggests to see a neurologist named Dr. Luthi. Dr. Luthi runs some brain scans and doesn't see any problems with Anneliese's brain. And they came to the conclusion that maybe Anneliese has some type of epilepsy and she has seizures. So after figuring this out, they came back, and for the next 3 years, Anneliese has the same symptoms about 2 times. And that's why later on, Dr. Luthi gave her some medication that's related to seizures. Every time Anneliese had these symptoms, Dr. Luthi would run a brain scan to see what's going on and never find anything. Time passes and we get to the spring of 1973. This is when Anneliese's symptoms get extremely severe, and you can't really say that she's having seizures now. These symptoms turn into hallucination, and she tells her parents, I always hear someone knocking, and I also hear different voices in my head. It is reported that Anneliese's mother has said, when she told her that, she stared at a Virgin Mary statue that's holding baby Jesus, and her eyes went dead black. And also her hands turned into paws. Most likely the mother is having hallucinations when she explains this. Then once again, the parents take her to the doctor to run some brain scans and see what's going on. After running some brain scans, Anneliese tells the doctor that I see people in front of my eyes that resemble the devil, and I feel like the devil has entered my body. We don't know if this part is accurate or not, but Anneliese's mother and father say that Dr. Luthi suggests to see a Jesuit, and they call a Jesuit over. Later on they ask Dr. Luthi, did you tell these parents to bring a Jesuit over for a medical problem? Dr. Luthi denies all the allegations, and he said what kind of a doctor brings religion into his practice. After all this, a Jesuit by the name of Father Alt sees Anneliese. But it's good to note that before Father Alt came around, Anneliese saw a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said that she most likely suffers from a form of epilepsy. Whenever Father Alt came around to see Anneliese, and she was using epilepsy medication, but he started the process to see what she's feeling. And after Father Alt came around, Anneliese's life got worse and worse every single day. And it got to a point where Anneliese was eating dead insects, killing spiders and eating it. She would even urinate on the ground and start licking it. Of course, their house was extremely religious, and there were Jesus statues everywhere. And she started breaking every single Jesus statue she would see. And this is when Father Alt said, I know exactly what's wrong with Anneliese. She's been possessed by the devil, and she needs an exorcism. And that's why the parents are forced to find an exorcist to perform an exorcism on Anneliese. They first find a Jesuit named Father Roderick, and when he examined Anneliese, he said, this is out of my price range because I cannot do anything. You have to call Father Renz. Father Renz had a lot of experience with exorcism. and Anneliese's parents called him over to help. And it's interesting to note that Father Renz even recorded some of the sessions he had with Anneliese. Keep in mind, it's all in German. The more you move forward, the more she got crazy because of the way they were treating her. And they're not helping her in any other way. Father Renz goes in and out of this house every day, and he's quote unquote trying to get the devil out of her. But the only thing they're doing is torturing this young girl. We get to May 1976. That means it's been years since Anneliese is being tortured alive in her own bedroom. She's not a little girl anymore. She's actually a grown adult at the age of 23. And of course, Father Renz is only making things worse and acting like he's helping. At this time, Anneliese has had enough and she starts hurting herself, smashing her head on the table, on the bed, destroying everything, making herself bloody. And that's why Father Renz suggests to tie her up to the bed so she stops doing that. After they tie her up, she also stops eating and drinking, so she's basically starving herself. And since the mother and father were extremely religious, they thought Father Renz is doing the right thing, but they're pretty stupid too. Any logical parents would stop this and stop the torture of their own daughter. But it seems like Father Renz was enjoying this a little too much because he would come and go every single day to her house to get the devil out of her, but in reality he's just torturing the girl. They're not even paying attention that Anneliese is not eating or drinking. They just wet her mouth so she doesn't die of thirst. But still, she's not eating anything and she's losing weight every single day. This insane torture and Anneliese not eating anything lasts more than a month, until we get to the 1st of July 1976, the day where Father Renz goes to Anneliese's house to perform an exorcism, but they find Anneliese dead in her bed. And of course, she died of starvation. It's insane to know that Anneliese's weight was only 30 kilograms at the time of her death. After the police examined Anneliese's body, they asked the Jesuit and her parents to ask what the hell happened and why is she in this condition. Of course, Father Renz had to say we were performing an exorcism. And since exorcisms aren't illegal, they really couldn't do anything about it at that time. But after the German police did their research, they examined the body to see what happened. They called the parents and the Jesuits to court to ask questions. And after this, they arrested the Jesuits, the parents, for torturing and killing Anneliese. In the first court session, the parents and the Jesuits bring the tape and recording of Anneliese's sounds, and they say she was possessed by the devil and we were trying to get the devil out of there. But of course, the court didn't believe anything like that because it's not a religious court, and none of that was proper proof. But the court would still blame the death on the family and the Jesuits. And they said she wouldn't eat. What do you want us to do? There's a rule that says you're supposed to force feed a person that's not willing to eat. You can hook up an IV or force feed them another way. The prosecutors turn to the parents and say, you guys knew that your daughter has mental illness, but you didn't try to go the doctor route to fix her. You called a Jesuit and tortured her to death. When Father Alt realized that it's getting sketchy and he's gonna be thrown under the bus, he turns around and says, I told the parents that she was suffering from schizophrenia. The parents deny this and say he never told us that. If you told Anneliese's symptoms to any known doctor, one of the first things they'll guess is schizophrenia. Because when you have hallucinations like this, you hear voices and you think other people are around you, you most likely suffer from schizophrenia. And with medication, this person with this type of mental illness could be helped, but a Jesuit is only going to torture them. If Father Alt told their parents years ago, they wouldn't go down this rabbit hole. But either way, all four of these people were guilty. But they didn't get a heavy sentence. They only got 6 months in jail. They also took the license away of the Jesuits for 3 years. And of course, all the court fees were on their hands. There's also a movie about Anneliese's life, but it has a different name. This is the movie called The Exorcism of Emily Rose.